When you realize the situation of the Yidden in that period of time, in Mitzraim and even afterwards, going all the way through they were definitely obsessed with Avodah Zorah. They were not into Shmiras Shabbos. Those are the two major issues that we saw. Because Shmiras Shabbos was a ois of monotheism. They did not want to engage in that. It's as simple as that. Okay. In light of this, what maybe we begin to understand that basically when we looked, when the pasuk says, here, go to your first thing over here, your first sheet, your first side in source hey, when it says, Vayema Hashem Moshe bo el paro, kanich bati es libo v'lev adav. And why did I do this? Not because I'm punishing them, because Lamaisa, I'm doing it for another purpose. Why? Their bchira they don't have anymore. I mean, as the Rambam elaborates in Mefurish, because of their chatoim, they lost their bchira. There is such a situation that because of chet, God makes you lose your bchira. It's a whole parak in Rambam in Hilchos Tshuva. Maybe you should learn it. Not a bad thing to do. I mean, it's a good thing to do. There's a whole parak there about how the Kosh Baruch Hu makes it harder for people to do tshuva because of certain callousness, because certain kshei oirif. It's a very important thing to know. So it says, not to punish them. That's not the issue at the moment, because now what's happening is not with Bchira, but rather for what? The manshiti oisesai ele b'kir boy. In order that I should place the signs of my existence in their midst. As we know, an os means a sign of an existence. A mofet means a proof. Mofes means a proof. Mofes chotech, it's a cutting proof. There's intuitive proof. There's different types of proofs. And there's ois. Ois means to say it's a sign. It's a siman. The far cry between a siman and a raya. Anybody who ever learns ksubas, yivamis, or mitzia will know. Simanim, no. Agoy samachlaikis was even deraisa derabana. Okay, simanim. What are you talking about? That's the nishkin raya. It's ois. It's a siman. There's simanim and rayas. That's the difference. Okay, Mitzraim, you'll learn once Gemara, and now you'll chap the gravity of the difference between them. Ois umayvsim. You say it every day, right? Ois umayvsim ba'adas meichom. Okay, there's ois umayvsim. Okay, I think you elaborate. I told you we made a chevron once of what the ois and what the mayvsim are. Did I ever do it here? Yeah, I think I did it. Ulamant the sababas they binchu ben bitcha it ashay salalti b'Mitzraim. He's alalus means to say I basically played with them. I generated the whole scenario. I mean, I did this for this to happen. In other words, it's very clear that this was not bchira. I played them. What for? The purpose is not for them. They're a lost crowd. You should know ki ani avaya. You must know. The Jews have to know. In other words, because the Jews did not know. We clearly see by reading by the Navi that we learned last week, the Jews didn't know. They didn't know it all. They had a hard time accepting it the way it is. Thank you. But they definitely, at that point of time, didn't really know. Knowing means internalizing, as we discussed multiple times. The idea doesn't mean cerebral knowledge. It means translating it into emotional intelligence. But yeda is ishta. Yediyah means milashon chibur. Okay, it can be carnal knowledge, it can be intelligent knowledge. Basically, that's what we call emotional intelligence. Something which we have a hard time doing. Be that you really mamish vividly experience ki ani avaya. You know, I wish you would. You know what I mean? Maybe your chakras would probably take a little longer than it does over here. It's very hard to daven here. They daven so fast, became a shugit severe. I'd rather do it be a chidus. Can you daven though? Anyway, but that's the Yetzias. So now I'd like to discuss, in light of this, all the mitzvahs that we have of Yetzias Mitzraim. We have a lot of mitzvahs Yetzias Mitzraim. The ultimate Yetzias Mitzraim is Leil Pesach. But the basic focus of all these mitzvahs Yetzias Mitzraim, so the Ramban explains it in a very clear way. In the last Ramban and Pashas Bay, yeah, everyone focuses on the end piece with the Ashgacha, but that we did already. I don't know, oh, have I got emails for this? You know, so it's so funny. Don't want to say how, what. They send me this Sachrin, this Bal Musar, this is to tell me, you heard what I had to say in Shir. I asked the question, tell me Pshat in Ramban. So what do I care if beard number X said this and beard number Y said that? Did they deal with the text of the Ramban? No. The Ramban says, I spoke about this before. Did he speak about these, whatever, bechinas that they had? No. So it was Hakstemir Shainik. But Abud, Gezukt, Yisha, there's a good word, I'll tell you. You should take it with a grain of salt. When I grew up, I heard a story. You obviously know that Chaim Nachum Bialik written Volozhin. Wasn't exactly a very firm person. He was a great poet, unbelievable poet. Wow. But, everyone knows that he's a Shana Pirish. He came from Odessa. He came from Maskilim. And he was in Volozhin for 2 years, and then he left. There's old Zchiras, his memoirs of his classmates at the time, which discuss it. Whatever. So he was shaven at the time. Many Jews had beards. So once a person stops on the street, Reb Yid, where's your beard? He looks at him and says, Reb Beard, where's your Yid? The word is good. That's what I'm trying to say. The Yid. Okay, he says, Reb Yid, where's your beard? Adkan. V'z'idich zil gemor. Okay, a Yid of learning Torah. That I know. Yes, from Kabbalah Ulmach, Shma has to learn Torah. Omo b'Torah, v'yega b'Torah. That's meant a Yid. Weiter, aus der Bord, sehr schön. Weiter, Ufchei. Dr. Ramban, I want to see this very fast and move to something else in Source Chof. Last side, before the Beis Yankiv. V'ata ima l'chol klal b'tam mitzvahs rabbi. So I now want to tell you the reason in many mitzvahs. From the beginning of the advent of paganism in the world, which started in the third generation of creation with the grandson of Adam, Enosh ben Sheis, which is Mamish, the grandson. The ideas, understandings of faith became very, very misled and mixed up and lack of clarity, and people started believing in things which are really not true. And what are they? So he says, we're not even talking at the moment about pure just paganism. Let's understand one thing. There are different types of paganism. Started originally, as the Rambam writes in Perik Aleph Chavedazor. I don't know if I learned it with you, but you should learn it. Okay? It started with people having a psychological problem of dealing with an overwhelming creator. It's like living with your mother-in-law. What can I tell you? It's like living with Rav Soloveitchik. You'd have to shine and gleam every day. Maybe Ken Schleppman does that mean. She could live with Moshe Feinstein. He was a sweet granddaddy. He was easy to talk to. With the Rev, you had to be on your toes. It's impossible. And then, like, it became a Schleppner, it became a sugar fan for them. You have to be too perfect, you understand? So what happened? So you see, this we figure, God, you're nice up there. I want to talk to your help. I told you once, you live with the president of the company, you have to drink single malts and play golf. You want to drink beer in torn jeans and you want to play bowling, you should you should be with your department head. I want to deal with a God that can slum it for me. Basically, so each one found a God that they could feel more comfortable with, but they believed in a creator. That's how it originally was. But things developed. And slowly but surely people forgot that there's a creator. There are people, actually we find even Mefurish, even in Yirmiyahu, where he said that the Goyim called Yud Kei Vav Kei Eloha Delokaya. Eloka Delohaya. The Lord of the Lords. Yeah, he's the big guy, but he's not involved here. He's basically giving the world to Neptune, Jupiter, whatever, the Chevra, you know what I mean? He's got other things to do than to worry about the world around us. That's true. It's found in Yirmiyahu that he's called that way. God, the Lord of the Lords, okay? He's too big to deal with us. The reason we say it's too big, because we don't want to deal with him. So he's too big to deal with you. It's always that way, you know what I mean? It's not just, his shear is very hard. No, because you're a lazy bum, don't want to work. So you say his shear is very hard. If you don't want to work, I get news, you're being religious is very hard. Everything's very hard. Okay? If it's easy, you're wasting your time. The Torah says no. We always do that. Instead of saying, the Chisaron is with us, we always say the problem is there. That's not understandable. No. It is understandable. You haven't done the effort to understand. You get that very straight. The Chisaron is, the Pasuk says that Mimkem. The problem is Michem, your problem, not Bechem Mikem. Whatever it be, but that would happen. Slowly but surely deteriorated to people not even believing there's a creator. And there definitely were people which believed the world always was. In the Greek period, it's very common. You have Aristotle, Plato, great thinkers that thought that the world was. The Rambam goes at length and elaborates on this in the book. Yes, just like you believe God always was, believe that reality, that the world always was. Did it have to come from naught? No, it always was. Those are the laws of science, always were. And they don't change. Why did you decide there's something cause of it? Are you willing to accept that there's a non-causative God, that God doesn't have a cause? Somehow you're willing to accept that God doesn't have a cause, right? You somehow live comfortable with that. You don't think that he had a father and a mother and a Holy Ghost. God is God. Did he have a reason? Did he have a source? No, he is an absolute existence. So all you have to say, believe that science is an absolute reality. It always was. What's your sweat? But there could have been other, there could have been, but that's what's here. There could have been a God with three heads, there's one. In other words, the real question is, the Rambam Ad Kedei Kach writes, in Moreh Nevuchim, if someone could prove that that's true, and he says there's certain things which I can disprove. He discusses Kadmos Ha'olam and brings there different possibilities, pointing out this can't be, this can't be. As far as this certain aspect, this certain surah of Kadmos Ha'olam, I'm not going there, you don't know about that yet. He says, if someone would prove it's true, I would believe it. What would I do with the psukim? Leave it to me. I would somehow read the psukim in a way that would fit. Ad Kedei Kach, that's what the Rambam writes with Furish. I can show it to you. Elamai, no one can prove that to be true. I have no reason to take the psukim from Pshuto. I have no reason to kick certain psukim into metaphor because the Pshuto Shemikah is what should be Pashup Pshat, unless there's something which it can't be. For example, the Rambam believes it can't be that a malach is seen by a donkey. Knowing what malachim are, knowing that a malach can't be seen by a donkey. So koch, that means he had an intuitive feeling, but not that he saw. Actually, Ramban concurs. You really want to know. What's that? Novi, how is that? He opened his mouth. The Mishnah says it was a nest. To see a donkey is not a nest. A donkey should see a malach is not a nest. You've seen a malach lately? We probably did. I haven't. What can I do? You know what I mean? It's aggressive in this. The text says no. The most part, the Mishnah doesn't mention that as a nest because he didn't see it with his eyes. He had an intuitive feeling of danger. Rambam. Maybe you should learn Chumash with Rishonim. It's a very important thing to do. Like you don't have these. They have these pictures of the donkey going. You know what I mean? And there's a guy with a sword. He didn't see that. Baba Mises. And this is Rabbi Sheinu G'dayla HaRishonim I'm talking about. Shekol Beis Yisrael Nishanai, and Rambam and Ramban. Okay? Maybe you should really do this. You have to learn this once. So one has to understand. So that's an absanic. So that pasuk doesn't mean the words the way it's written. It means it's saw internally. Okay? We can do that if we have to, if it's mukhrach. So he says, if you be machriach me, that Einoch Hanami, the old words, I can live with it. Theologically, it won't change my theology. It'll only change a certain understanding of Parshas Bereshis. That's what he writes. If it's kadmon means to say, but it's something which is it's kadmon, but it's subservient to God. It's not something, but he can do what he wants with it. I have no problem. As long as the Brias, the world, can be changed and manipulated to a Baira equals there's Nisim and Schar V'Einish, due to mitzvahs, so God can play with it whatever he wants because it's a hate. His problem is you can't accept the world always was in the simple Greek way, because if it always was, and God is, it's like two gods. There's the God and there's the world. So just like the world can't change God, God can't change the world. And therefore, they believe that everything is always was. The laws of the science are written in stone. Therefore, they do not believe in supernatural phenomena of miracles. And to the extent there are miracles, they are programmed in the essence of science. Maybe you should read Rambam for this one. This is not the time to teach it. But I'm trying to prove something that one has to understand. But basically, that's what they believed in. Therefore, the Rambam says that can't be. Since it's not only he disproves it philosophically, but he points out that's makrish adas. That our religion believes that if you behave yourself, there's rain. You don't behave yourself, there's no rain. If you behave yourself, But that's not a law of science. That's a law of metaphysics, which is factored into science. They can only be true. Now, no one thinks that metaphysics and Rutz and the Burrs factor into an independent world unless the world is created by God. So he can factor in what he wants. But if the world is independent of God, just its neighbor, Mechitesi, it has factored into it the will of God. Why would it be so? There's no logic for it. So to believe that the olam is kadmai and not basically a product of a Kodesh Baruch Hu is kfira, not because the pasuk Bereshis bar Elokim, because the schar and einish and nisim. For us, schar and einish is one of the most important things of Yiddishkeit, for accountability. I mean, you believe Seif, that can't exist if you believe that the world is kadmai. Is this clear? I hope it's very clear. Okay. So now I want you to understand there were people that believed in it. The Greek period, multitudes. Very common belief. At Kriyas, the Rambam has to spend quite a few prakim to undo it. He undoes things which is commonly acceptable in the world of philosophy at this time. The Rambam points out that even in the period of the Jews in Egypt, there were people that believed in the gods, but not that there was a creator. They believed the world always was. The world always was. And there happen to be lords which run the show. But the world always was. No one created the world. We don't think that Ra or the sheep, Aries, created the world. It's a constellation, for goodness sakes. Okay? So what does it mean? It means to say, again, it means to say that they also always were. But these are gods, and this is a reality. This is called a world. Let's understand what that is exactly. There's no boire at all. If there's no boire, there can't be nisim, there can't be schar v'einish, and the elamai. Yes, the gods can punish you, do what they want you, but it can't be quid pro quo. It can't be the nature. The natural reality is that there's rain. Understand there's rain here, Bochum, this week. It's because the Jews are doing something right there. When it rains in America, stop. Some sar shalamai like chaptanoin decides to make rain. Okay. Here, every time it rains, because God likes us. This is kisses and hugs. When you have a week like this, you say, I guess something went right. That's what it means, okay? I want you to understand that. You should understand when you look at the weather. It's not that so terrible sometimes to walk into the rain and feel it. Anyway, so let's read Ramban that he discusses this. He says, Mehem koifrim be'ikar, those are koifrim, the principal idea of a boira olam, v'ayrim ki olam kadmai. They say the world always was and was not a created reality. It's independent of God. And I just elaborated what that kfira is. Kichshu ba'Hashem, they simply denied the existence of an omnipotent, common, ultimate existent primary source. V'yomru lohu, they said, no, it's not true. There is no primary source of reality. Reality was always there. That's some. I can say right now, it wasn't the Rud Alm over there at all, at least the way we see from the development of, this developed much more in the Greek era, less in this early period. That's the honest truth. I'm going to say, as I pointed out the pasuk in Yirmiyahu, weiter, mehem makchishim b'diyosei aprotis. Some of them were makrish in his idea. He's not aware of what's happening. Yetzias aprotis. What's the idea of protis? He is aware of the overall laws of nature. They believe there was a creator, and he's aware that he set laws of nature, but he's really not interested in knowing what happens with them. He doesn't care about dogs and cats. We also don't know that. He doesn't care about people. He created them. Why did he create them? What's the difference? Why? He created them, now doesn't care about it. Why? This is basically discussed with Zchiras, actually. He's too big to do this. Why he did it, it was some kind of a taiva. It was illogical reason. He wanted to. Okay, no, he has no reason to destroy it. Like many things you wanted in life, you thought they were important, then you stopped caring about them. Isn't it true? How old are you? I used to have a great stamp collection. I used to be very much into it. Yeah, well, I forgot about it when I got married. I gave it to my kids. They think they care about it. They give it to their kids. By now, my beautiful stamp collection is worth nothing anymore because it's all in, like it's could pay it, all different kids. They wouldn't even know what they're doing, a bunch of hater things. They wouldn't even know what first day edition is. They don't know what they're doing. It's probably worth nothing. By now, it's garnish. It was, I put a lot of time and effort in that when I was a kid. Ad Gil Esel. I put a lot of time in it. Really, I love fresh stamp collection. I don't anymore. Couldn't care less about it, right? So you see, so we built the world. Okay, nice. Okay, so did I throw my stamps out? No. Sollen sie bleiben dort. Okay, so sein the Welt. I put up a system. Whatever they do with it, do with it. What do I care? I just enjoy having it. Like having a dog, you look at everything it does, and maybe you do. Some people don't. Okay, you have a collection. You look at it every day. No, once in a while when you're very bored. It's like wedding pictures. When's the last time your parents take out their wedding pictures? Probably never. You know what I mean? The first year you show it to your friends to say, "Look at me, I'm actually married." Okay. Afterwards, you show it to your mother-in-law when she shows up. Afterwards, you put it somewhere in the Biden. Who looks at it anymore? And then 20 years later, your wife doesn't want to see it because look, she was young then, and now she looks something else. This is very incriminating. You can see the added pounds over there. So no one looks at it. Do you throw it out? No. It wasn't important at the time. Yes. So they believe God made the world. He wanted a certain time. Not interested. Why? Because he's too big for this. Literally, Rama Kogoyim Hashem ala Shemaim Kavoidai. That's what the Goyim say. He is so big, his covet is up in the Shemaim. He doesn't have covet from the Oretz. Why would he care about the Oretz? And we say, Mish Hashem Elokeinu HaMakbili L'Shavas HaMashpili L'Rois B'Shemaim of Oretz. We say he is so big that he's very important in what we do down here. Because he's so big, he has no problem being so low. The people which can't come down because being big for them is not, it has a limit. It's a cloud gadol b'Torah. The bigger you are, the more inclusive you are. You wouldn't care less. The smaller you are, you have to protect a certain limit, so you're limited. It's a bisa b'kutcha, cloud gadol b'Torah. Great people can talk to everybody. Small people can barely talk to themselves. That's a Yesod Gadol. So that's what Judaism believes about the Kodesh Baruch Hu. Mika Shem Elokeinu HaMagbila Shabbos. He's so high. HaMashpili L'Rois B'Shamayim V'Oretz. That's why he goes down low to see what's happening in the earth. That the Balatanya brings this pasuk to describe the difference between the emunah of the lack of belief in Hashgacha of the Goyim versus the belief in Hashgacha of the Jews. So that's what this is here. V'amru, Eicha Yeda, how would he know? V'yesh Dea Be'elyon, does he then really know? It's a pasuk in Tehillim. So there's two. Then there's a third people. Mehem she yodu be'yediyah, they admit that he knows, because his knowledge is not limited, so he knows everything. He knows. He doesn't have to care. He knows. By us, you only know if you care. Right, because very simply, because knowledge means to what? To internalize an external phenomena and process it. You have to want to do it. You spend most of your lives being around internal phenomena and you don't care enough to internalize it. Let's face it. You see so much things during the day that if you would internalize everything, your fuses would probably bust. You have a very interesting filter of what you only internalize that which you feel that you want to subconsciously because it's important to you. Those are things you'll remember. Other than like the different faces that walk next to you in a bus. Believe me, you don't internalize. I promise you. Unless you have a police man which forces you to remember a face. A face was for a crime thing, whatever it only be. Make it this nicht. It's a different passion. We do not internalize that information. Okay? But a Kodesh Baruch Hu, as we learned in previous shurim, doesn't have to his knowledge does not come from internalization of external phenomena. It's an expression of the infinite self. Remember, we learned that in Tanya's shir. That's what it means. That Kodesh Baruch Hu's Chachma is an expression of the self. It's not an internalization of external phenomena. So he knows. Just that he knows himself. He knows everything. So that's the answer to the question. Why would God care to look? He doesn't have to care to know. He knows. Doesn't have to care to know. He knows. Do you have to care to know your existence? No. Right? You don't have a conscious, oh, now I'm going to think about myself. You know, okay? So for him, and knowledge of everything is knowledge of the self. This is a Rambam in Hilchis Tshuva and Hilchis Seder Torah, which describes that the Das of Elokim is not like the Das of Bnei Adam. Das of Bnei Adam who chutz mimenu, benifred mimenu, Das Elokim who be'atzmo u'me'atzmo. We discussed this in Tanya Shir. Enough, let's go further. So therefore, that wasn't the problem. But what did they think? But why should he get involved? Once again, he is so big. I understand he knows because he doesn't need an effort for knowing. But why should he be involved? Why would you have hashgacha? Hashgacha does not mean knowing. Hashgacha means if you're a mashgiach kashrus. Knowledge is not your job. Your job is to know and intervene. A mashgiach in the yeshiva, his job is not just to know. He's supposed to know and act, intervene. That's it, if he's a mashgiach. Okay, understand. Knowledge, so that's not hashgacha, that's yediyah. You have to understand the difference between hashgacha and yediyah. Yediyah means knowledge. Hashgacha means knowledge which causes intervention. Okay, that's it. Davar pashut. Just to understand the words. So the makchishim b'hashgacha. V'yasu adam kidgeh hayam. Look at the language of the Ramban. It's very important. L'shitasoi shelo yashgiach hakel b'hem. God does not care about the fish. Well, we know he cares about the species of fish, doesn't care about the unique fish. What they do is totally inconsequential for him, and he doesn't intervene in their lives. He knows and doesn't intervene. And that's why obviously there's no Sachar and Einish there, simply because it's a nasty swordfish. He was violent. You know what I mean? No, God couldn't care less. He couldn't care less. I don't intervene. Let them do whatever they want to do. Okay? Again, he says, he sees this as a product of lack of hashgacha. He doesn't say the product because they're blameless. You know, that's what he says. There's no einish sachar because he's not mashgiach. Why don't you simply say there's no einish sachar because they have no brains to make decisions? Well, obviously, we're going to have to come to a conclusion. They can make choices to a certain limited reality. And to that limited reality, there should also be a certain amount of accountability. In other words, the Ramban is inferring that you cannot say that animals don't have intelligence and they can't make decisions. You can't say that every animal he does is totally intuitive. Not true. It's just like you. He had a bad childhood. He's violent. He's a little cocker spaniel. Believe me, he needs a diaper. You know, he's a sweet little thing. It depends, okay? It depends how this was raised. So obviously you can train it, or it can be trained. It means to say he has decisions, and the world it lives in defines its decisions. Good. So it's a big yesod this Ramban that in principle there could be sechar v'einish b'chai. It's a very yesodistic Ramban, and the only reason it isn't because God couldn't care less. I want you to read. That's how you read a Ramban. You see what it says. He said there's no sechar v'einish. Why? Because there's no hashgacha. They state the Ramban. Right. And he thinks that people are like that. What does he just tell you? That's a davar pashut that this is true by dogim. So when someone tells me there's hashgacha by dogim, the Ramban's going to say, if that's the case, why there's no schar v'einish? And people that will say there's hashgacha by dogim are going to have to say there is schar v'einish by dogim. Well, what are they going to say about tzomeach? It isn't tzomeach. There's no schar v'einish because they don't do anything. They're inanimate. They don't make decisions. But by chai, al kochach, whoever subscribes to hashgacha pratis by cats and dogs and mice, which is the great people, okay, they obviously believe at least they believe one or two possibilities. That as opposed to the Ramban, which thinks they have the intelligence to make decisions, they may say no, they don't have. There's a machlekes in Yetzias between the Ramban and whoever X is out there. Possibility one, I would not enjoy that possibility. Okay, I don't think that they were greater animal psychologists than the Ramban. None of them knew animal psychology. Okay, that's number one. Number two. So what's the other possibility? They may think that the hashgacha does not mean have to say. So what they say, they actually believe that there is schar v'einish by animals. Possibility, if you're going to make the machlekes in keeping basic premises, you're going to say he thinks there is. He thinks there is. Interesting possibility. I don't know. Thank God for the Ramban. But basically, again, because there could have been schar v'einish because they do have the capability, but God doesn't care less about them. This is Das Ramban. And if you believe that Adam is like dogim, it means God doesn't care less about them, and therefore you're not chishon schar v'einish. That's what comes out. So in other words, that's the aside we have to remember. This is so when the pasuk tells us, and he quotes this in pasuk until miyasik hayom. Okay, so we said when you equate people hayom, we're basically saying that people there is no schar v'oinish and no ashgacha on people, and that's what he writes. Those people thought so. Weiter. Shelo yashgiach hakel behem ve'eni ma'im schar v'oinish schar. Yomru azav Hashem ta'aretz. He created it. He knows about it. Doesn't kill us about it. Okay, what happened? Now we know that we don't believe in any of this. We believe there's a creator. They created the world, and therefore there's nisim and niflos and everything. He can change the teva whenever he wants. There's no to believe that there is a that the laws of science continue. It's only because we have a chazaka de mikara. It's all it is, which is whatever it is. That's what it is. Okay. Whatever it is, that's what it is. And sure, I elaborate on that. What it is, it ain't much, but whatever it is, that's what it is. Okay, that's all it is. And that's number one. We believe God is aware, but that's easy because there's really no effort of the God's knowledge to be aware. So we have no. We understand Yetzias Elokim, the chokmah of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, different than the chokmah of a human being. Understand that's not really an issue, and not just that he knows, but he cares as it involved. That's what we all believe in, because without schar v'oinish, there's nothing. Now, what happens at that point of time? Jews did not. There are Jews that believed that in nothing, and some believed that A, and some believed in B. Jews were pagans, and therefore did not believe in the collective three ideas that you have here. There were people that didn't believe. There were actually Jews that did not believe there's even a creator. And obviously, the multitudes of them didn't believe. Most of them did not believe in Yediyah or in Ashgacha. Definitely didn't believe. They didn't believe in all of it. And now God wants to reintroduce this to the Jews in Egypt. So what does it say? Zoter Ramban, B'kasher Yitzeh Elokim Be'ida O B'yachid, when God chooses a community or a singular person, V'yasei Ma'em Mofet, and will do with them he will create some miraculous proof of his existence. B'shinui minagosha olam v'tivo, changing the custom of the world and also changing the nature. Now, what does that mean? It means to say both manipulating the laws of nature and flaunting the laws of nature. There you have it. Shinui min hagolam v'tivo is B. Teva means say the laws of nature. Gravity goes this way. Changing the teva, all of a sudden there's no gravity. Manipulating the laws of nature, when all of a sudden the frogs, which are supposed to be in the Nile, come and invade the house. He didn't create forget that medrash of one frog and they hit it. Obviously, it's an allegory for something. Okay, we're not. In pasuk state is nicht. Okay, once it's medrash rabbi, it can be seen as multiple things. I can't say that's a double borrow. When I say makas svardeya, I don't take that into account. What does the Mikra say? Makas svardeya kipshuta. They bought a lot of frog. All right, what did he do? All the wild animals which lived in the neighborhood, he didn't import them from Tanzania. Whatever local wild animals were in the area, they all of a sudden converged on the city. That's what it is. It's like Hitchcock's Bird. It's a very old movie of Hitchcock. The birds all of a sudden deciding to converge on the city. It's a horror movie back from the 50s or the 40s. I remember when I was a baby, I saw it on the Late Show. In the old television, the Late Show, the late show, that was only for people who didn't sleep at night. They had old movies, you understand? So when I was a kid, when in the 50s, this was an old movie. That's what I'm trying to say. I don't know if it was pretty much 1930. I don't know what it was, but so this is the story. So there's two things. God can either manipulate nature or flaunt the laws of nature. That's shinui minig ha'olam, v'tivo is two. Yidbareh lakol, if this is true, that God will choose somebody and will do these things, it becomes clear to all, bitul adiyot kulam. This annuls all the three ideas mentioned. Why? If you can change nature, that means to say you control it. That means to say that it's totally in you. That can only be true if you're its reason of existence. If it was independent of you, the world always was, you're not the reason for the laws of nature. Who are you to change it? How can you possibly, if gravity always was, why would you think that there's a power that can change it? By the fact that God says, I'm omnipotent, I can do everything. I can do everything, and there's no laws of nature which I can't defy. I want to describe the biggest defying laws of nature is the Gemara in Bava Basra, Mokem Ha'oren Eino Min Amida. I mean, that mass does not take space. That's like Twilight Zone, okay? So here you have it. Mass did not take space. The Oren did not take space. That's freaky, okay? Do you understand that? That's the biggest mess I've seen anywhere, okay? It's not to change your good, so gravity stops. But how can you deny physics? That's the current axiom. And in the end, there's no axioms. Mass does not take space. Kill me. Is it possible? It's impossible, right? It's logically impossible. But logic is also a created form, so God is not limited by that either. Therefore, we say, that's number one. Also, v'yodea, umashgiach. Why would he do it? Because he knows that people are behaving a certain way. He's doing it. And why is he intervening? Because he intervenes. So by the fact that God created Mavsim in Mitzraim, it teaches me, Boire, Yodea, Umashgiach. What else? The last one he adds often is Yachol. What is the idea of Yachol? The idea of Yachol is because in reality, maybe there are two gods. One is the fire god, one is the water god. I don't know, Neptune and whatever else is over there, okay? Well then, how can you possibly have, since basically the Teva of Eish is one, and Teva of Mayim are the other, and they are total opposites, they can never meet. One extinguishes or evaporates the other. That means these gods are at war, or these gods are opposing powers. So how does he create Boron, which is both together? The Torah says, no, he's the God of this and he's the God of that. He's Yachol. He's omnipotent. There's no limit to his capabilities because there's only one creator, which is the one Yodea and the one Mashgiach. All these Surim that you people call Surim that you're giving credence to, they're nothing more than his hammer, his tool chest. He's trying to annul the whole idea of paganism. Paganism believes that there's Surim. And they have control, and you have to talk to them. And no, don't talk to them. They're nothing more than a hammer and a chisel and a screwdriver. Nothing to talk to. You sing Machnisi Rachmim, you're singing to a toolbox. Like sit next to a screwdriver and say, please screw in. Mr. Mishuginel. What can I tell you? That's what you're doing when you sing Machnisi Rachmim. You're singing to a malach, which is nothing more than a screwdriver. Please, screwdriver, screw well. Sorry, he's nobody. He's a klisharis, that's all he is. As we know, what's the name of the malach? His shlichus. And when he has another shlichus, he has another name. It's a Rashi in Parshat Vayishlach. Okay? Because that's all he is. He's a tool for a shlichus. He doesn't have a personal name. They say Yesod Gadol. So you understand. So Mameli says, Kashay is, so we know he's Yachal. Now he goes further, the Ramban. And if God is in dialogue with a person and tells him about it, and the prophet comes and says, this is what God said, this will happen next week. So what else do we know? We know A, that God is in dialogue with man. B, man is capable of being in dialogue with God. That's a very important factor, because without that, you can believe in a God creator, but how would you believe in a God of giving direction and meaning and purpose? For us to believe that there's a God creator, a master evolver of the mess, that's very sweet that he cares. But why would we believe that he's in interaction with man? He intervenes because he doesn't like what to do, but how do we know that he told us anything? Without nevuah, we don't have Torah. Without nevuah, believe me, without religion, I can deduce logically that there is a creator. Believe me. Intelligent design is not that for any logical person which is not afraid. I don't know why people are afraid of having a God. You should be afraid of having a God which creates morals and restrictions. That I understand. But I honestly would believe without Nevuah, I would believe in God of creation, but never say that he has restrictions or morals. Therefore, as a would have been a Kriyas, I would have accepted that there's a God of creation, no problem. My question lies: does he talk to man and introduce his views and his will? Well, the answer is: how do we know this? How do I know it? I know it through Nevuas Moshe. How do I know Nevuas Moshe isn't a scam? And this is not the place. It's another story. Open up a Rambam if it's a Perik Ches. You say that, he'll elaborate on it for you. Okay? That's the emes. Without believing that God is in dialogue with man, and man is capable of having that dialogue. Those are two issues, by the way. That he's willing to talk to you, and you're capable of hearing, unless it equals, and you're capable of hearing and understanding what he's saying. I can talk to you too. That doesn't mean I believe you're capable of understanding what I'm saying. You have to understand there's two dadim to this little picture. I do believe. Don't worry about it. I wouldn't waste my time. But Lamaisa, there's two sides to the equation. You have to believe two anachas. Okay, so you actually believe that, then you have the basis of a governed religion, which there are obligations, restrictions, commandments, etc. Then you have direction from a leader, so to speak. That would be God. Okay, so he says that you have to have two. So he says, then you see the veracity of prophecy. Once you believe in Beirei, Yodea, Mashgiach, and Migala died Pitzave, and Menabe, that's it. That's the side culture. Now, all you want to know is what did he command. But that's the basis of religion. Without these Yesodis, there's no place for religion, Judaism at all. L'chen yomar katuv b'moftim l'man teda ki ani Hashem b'kerev haaretz l'horot al hashgacha ki lo azav otam lemikrim keda'atam. That is actually the pasuk which describes the Yifleisi when God says the borrowed will be only in Eretz Mitzraim and not in Eretz Goshen. He differentiates. Means he says, you people are going to get bored, you won't get bored. That's called mashgiach. I intervene and decide. There the pasuk is, the man teda ki ani Hashem b'kerev haaretz. Why? Because v'yifleisi, I decided in Goshen there's no bored, in other places there is bored. Weiter. V'yomar leman teda ki l'Hashem haaretz. What's that pasuk? In order that you should know that the world is God's. What is that? That's the first idea, that he's the boire and it's his. It's his to do whatever he wants with it. That's Yara ala Chidush. Kihem Shalai, Shibar Ami Ayin. This we always know. Remember when you say in Tefillah, you say V'koine HaKoil? What does it mean? Yes, because what does Kinyan mean? Kinyan means an action which creates a unique relationship. Now, there are multiple relationships. It can be a monetary relationship. It can be a spousal relationship. It can be a fraternal relationship. It can be a national relationship. It can be a relationship with matter and form. Whatever it can be, there are multiple types of relationships, but they're all different relationships, and all of them we use the lashon kinyan. Ha'isha niknis, Eved Ivri nikne, metaltalim niknin, and so on and so forth. Kona does not mean, is only a word describing an action which generates or creates this unique relationship. The quality of that relationship, the scope of that relationship depends on how we define the relationship. Each one is governed by different laws. There's no isili sigzil if someone steals your friend. You can't be mafkir your wife. You notice? Everything is different. Mamain is the sigzil, and you can be mafkir. You can't sell a friend. You can sell mammon. It's interesting. Everything is different. So each relationship is governed. It has different laws which govern it. But there's a certain common denominator. Kinyan means creating a relationship. The ultimate creation of ownership, not in the monetary form, but literally he owns. I mean, it is his, the form of the matter. We're not thinking of God having monetary relationship with the world because he doesn't actually sell it to the market. No, God is not is a bailim in the sense of cheshamish, but for goodness sakes. That's quite ludicrous to think, because at simple day, because any moment can only be something which is marketable, and you can transform the commodity to money. So it's called, I have something which is a monetary relationship. As soon as you can't transform that to money because it's not on the market, it's not on the board of commodities, so you may have a relationship with the matter and the form, but you don't have it with the money because there is no money to be had. That's the pshat yisur, no, not yours. Okay, they're not yours in a monetary relationship. We discussed this year, but they are yours as far as having a relationship with matter and form. It's another bullshit. That's like olive base to a person who thinks. Okay, so this is another portion. When I say God creation is a relationship with matter and form. So in other words, your essential existence of matter and form, that's you. Okay, not what you're worth, what you can do, not your accomplishments. That's yours. What does he own? What he created. What did he create? Your matter and your form. As much as you're a thing, he owns you. As much as you are equals in existence, your existence he created. Okay, this is a double pasha. One has to remember. That's what the Gemara says in Yevamos that a guy owns his child, and he can sell him. He can be megayer him balkorchoy. He owns him. He literally owns him. He even has a din evid on him, which is really cool. Okay, that's interesting halacha. But everybody. No, everyone Gitner, Kedushin, or some other Mishnah knows that Abdus is not just a monetary relationship. Fact of the matter is, even after you're Mafka, your Eved, he still has the dinim of an Eved and Eved, he has, therefore he doesn't have all the mitzvahs. When does he get chayiv in all the mitzvahs? Only if you give him a shtar, shichrer. Why? Because the relationship to him as far as matter and form, is not null to Hefker. The monetary value is a null to Hefker. The matter and form, you're still my Eved. What does that mean? If it's not for money and not for doing anything, not coercing him to act for you, what is it? I have a spiritual relationship with you. It's like you have a spiritual relationship with, I don't know, my cat. I have a spiritual relationship with you, and that spiritual relationship of subservience depletes your Judaism. We have enough in halacha. Here's one more example of an ownership with matter and form, which is not with money. Okay, I didn't even say this one this year, but that's okay. This is another example. But we can do this forever. I don't want to teach that way to young people. So that's what we have. So now we know God is kainaka. Remember that. He's kainaka. Why? Because he created you. Now that you believe that, you understand that. And therefore it says, it says after the Ein Kemoni B'chol Haaretz. This is right before Barad. La'orot al Yecholet. Shehu Shalit B'kol. Right, you can put fire and water together. Hello, that's it. Shalit B'kol. Ein Ma'akev B'yado. There's no other one that he has to deal with. He's okay. Ki B'chol Zeh Hayu HaMitzrim Makrishim O Mistapkim. So every time you say Zecher Yetzias Mitzraim, and there's so many mitzvahs to do that, what are these mitzvahs supposed to remind you? You go to a mezuzah. Outside of smearing your saliva on it in pre-COVID times, something like that, what are you really supposed to be doing? You're actually supposed to stand next to it and meditate on what are the prime ideas there. Kabbalas O Shemayim and Malchus and Mitzvahs. Okay, what's that for? So to Ramban, the purpose is to remember Boire, Yodea, Mashgiach, V'Yachol. Because the whole purpose of all the Oishas and Moifs of Mitzrayim, what were they for? L'man Teida Ki Ani Hashem. We just read the pasuk in Parshas Boy. What does that mean, Hashem? Boire, Yodea, Mashgiach, V'Yachol. That's literally what the Ramban is teaching you right here. This is what the Isis and Moifsim were for, to teach you to annul these theories in Avodah Zarah, to understand this is the reality. May the Ramban continues, Ubavur, no, why is he doing it now? Why should he? He made a world of free will. There was a certain period of time which the belief in a God was totally unheard of, wasn't there. It died. So Abraham came without miracles, and Abraham rejuvenated it. So God trusts man to fix the story on his own. In Egypt, we were in a situation where that wasn't happening. As Rambam describes in Hilchos Avodah Zarah, here, even the sapling which Abraham had planted was about to wither. Kimat kat neka asheta sheshosel avinu hazaken. Lashon Rambam, Perik Aleph Halacha. It's the big halacha, it's the whole Perik. Okay, Perik Aleph Halacha is the joke. The whole Perik is put in halacha. So Perik Aleph Halacha makes it sound short so you can read it. But really, just roll through it. It's very easy. It's very nice Perik. You can learn. I don't want to teach you. You can learn Rambam. This you don't know how to read, but Rambam you know how to read. No, they all know how to read Rambam. So read Rambam. So there it says in the Furish that yes, this was terrible. In other words, the whole revolution of monotheism was about to go under. There was no one which wasn't the Levi of Avodah except I told you, except for Shevet Levi, Gegefin Levi. The percentage was minute. Okay? So therefore, basically it was going to go under. It equals, even Shevet Levi was about to go under. That's the Lashon of the Rambam. B'chazru Yisrael l'tohu yusam equals, there was going to be a situation where everybody, even the Leviim, were going to go under. If God would have kept us there a little longer, there wouldn't have been anyone left to talk to. It's as simple as that. And then God would have said, oops. Sorry, I tried. I tried to trust man. It didn't work. Okay. Chasal Seder Pesach. And God, thank God, took some time because God doesn't want to say, oops. Okay. And I should understand what that means. Okay. He wants this to work. Okay. So now you have to understand. So then, today, should God do it today? Thank God there is so much monotheism in the world and so much learning and books. Everything's available, and we already had Mitzraim, and we have an historical reality which we can tell the story. If you live in it, you understand. You're experiencing history, and this is not. Well, I'm not going to do a Kirv show at the moment, but anybody who has a reach of Gemara with Rishonim and just stands in front of the and lives vividly the Seder HaDoros of Rabbi Yisrael Gdolei HaPoskim, Rabbi Yisrael HaRishonim, Rabbi Yisrael HaMerorim, Rabbi Yisrael HaTanoim. I don't know about you. Anybody really learning lives an intimate relationship, mamish, an intimate relationship with the Amoraim and Tanoim. A deep intimate relationship with Rabbi Yisrael HaRishonim. Like, I know them. I can touch their pulse, for goodness sakes. I can tell you this is not a Rajba. Don't have to be who knows what for that. Just read a little bit. Okay? Let me tell you. I tell you, when I used to learn with him Rajba, every time we called the Rajba, he would like roll out all the parallels in Shas and the Chuvas of Rajba on this topic, and we could then equate languages and see how things were said. And you really knew what the Rajba meant. It was unbelievable. I didn't have to say a swaro with a chakir, with a baba maisa. I simply knew. I did a parallel study of his language on this topic in 7 places. And you know what he meant. I didn't have to go, I don't have eyes, so I'll touch things and hope to know. No, I have eyes. It's as simple as that. You know him, you know he thinks. Very easy. Okay, you learn Rambam, learn all his literature, and you know he thinks. You know how he doesn't think. But you know he thinks. Okay, to think like him is beyond. Okay, yeah, it's very simple. It's a different world. You get intimate with them. So for me, I have a direct chain to Sinai. Because I am intimate with these people, and they is awesome. This is not a few odd fishermen in the Galilee which tell me a story written 300 years later that Jesus did a miracle on the loaves and walked on the Sea of the Galilee. That's as true as Odin and Jupiter. You understand? But here, I know the Chaznish, and he is the most scariest person I can think about. I don't know what is bigger than him. The greatness is beyond. Like, compared to him, all these other famous books, they small. Very small. Okay? He's like crazy awesome. He's frightening. You can't even, most people don't even understand what he's saying because you have to mamish know the sugya with Shas to appreciate what he's saying. No one knows Yeshiva Bachar reads a Chaznish. They read a 2-liner because his Rebbe told them about it. Why? Because it's impossible to read. If you don't know the sugya cold with all the Rishonim, don't even go there. You won't understand what he's saying. I can tell you right now. That's not true with a lot of popular yeshiva literature. No, an idiot can understand it. They tell it to you already in high school. There's two dinim and there's two hoops. You throw this here, you throw this there. And hoop, you Zchiras shava, and somehow everything works, right? Didn't you know that every real question in life has two surgical possibilities? And therefore, obviously, it's either A or B. What's your problem? Make your surgery. I've lived enough life to know nothing in life has two surgical possibilities. It's much more complex than that. Okay, believe me, every suffix has multitude of stodim. To say the simplicity of two possibilities is so not real. It's beyond contempt in my eyes. Okay, that's the honest truth. It's contemptuous. You're an idiot. Excuse me. Or you don't know enough. You don't understand how to think. You're living in la la land. Okay, it's not true. Simple as that. I want you to understand that. Get this very straight. You understand? Everything is a kol mulkav. Everything is. There's so many. I told you want to svar and rive. Learn all hilchos rive, then talk to me. You want to svar and sveike? First learn all hilchos sveike, and then talk to me. Is it a schusa taina in a migo, or is it nehmanus? That's all you know how to say. You know how many clothes are in migo? Now, does this clone fit with the whole clone of the shach? That's like 3 pages in small letters. No. Come to a conclusion, the shtiyot. Okay, when you know the material and you can feel it, then you mamish live with it. You feel it. But because you live with it, you know how great these people are. You're frightened of them. When you stand in front of a Bai V'Rava, you stand there, mamash like Moshe Rabbeinu in front of the sneh. You're frightened. You feel shalom alechem araglecha. If you understand the complexity, the scope, the capabilities of these people, and then for me, I stop with the Chazon Ish. He thinks he's less than Minnie Mouse compared to the Gra. The Gra, I don't even go near. I don't know what it is. I don't know is it greater than the Chazon Ish? I don't know what it means. I stop there. I'm like an ant, okay? So my scope is until the heels. I can only get to the Chazon Ish. So you tell me about a Gra. The Gra's already the needs. I don't get there. I just know it's bigger than the heels. Okay, I don't know what it is. Right there, it's way beyond my scope. And the Gra thinks he's Mickey Mouse compared to the Rimigash. And the Rimigash thinks he's a behemoth gasa compared to the Gainim. And the Gainim think, he's bottled to Mishas HaGainim. And the Gainim say, well, are you kidding the Mitzraim? We don't argue with these people. The Mitzraim say about the Tanoim, in Rishonim kibnei Adam anu kechamoirim, v'loi kechamor shepichas ben Yor, because he was intelligent. And in Rishonim kimalachim anu kibnei Adam. They were scared of them, do you understand? Frightened. And what do you think that Tanoim felt about the Anshe Knesset Gdoila and the Nevi'im? And what do you think the Nevi'im felt about Moshe Rabbeinu? Now, I have a chain of people which I'm solely intimate with, and they tell me the story of Sinai. I got a lot of people which I'm frightened of the quality of the people and the thought, not because they're really big people and I have to believe what they believe, no, because they tell me this is true, because we receive it from people which we really trust. I have a very, very verified, it's probably the only phenomenon in history that I know, which has such a chain of heavy weight of verification from the point of converging from the occurrence ad hayom hazeh. Rambam says that the whole purpose of Pirkei Avos is in order to get and understand the depth of that chain. That's what Pirkei Avos teaches you, the inner moral world of those Chachmei HaMasorah. Why do you trust them? Well, let me tell you about Rabbi Akiva. In one word, he said more philosophy that Rambam has to write a book on. When he writes Hakol Tzafui v'Reshus Netuna, that's it. Rambam says only Rabbi Akiva could say things so deep in 4 words. Read the Rambam Pirush Mishnah. That's beyond. Hakol Tzafui v'Reshus Netuna. God knows everything, and we have free will. In there is encompassed so much philosophical thought. That's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at the moral, ethical persona. They're not just sugya splitters. They live with mantras of morals and ethics and thoughts. And the Rambam says the reason of Pirkei Avos is for us to understand who were the Chachmei HaMasorah. Agdama the Mishnah. Okay, do you understand what I'm saying? So I have it. You know, it's much more verified than the fact that John F. Kennedy was president of the United States and was killed in Dallas, Houston. I forgot Houston. He was killed in Houston, Dallas, killed in Dallas, right? Killed by Lee Harvey Oswald, which no one really knows if that's true anyway. Okay, you know, do I know that there was a president called Trump? The papers say so. I have to believe papers with chazakas and roivs. You know what I mean? That's an idea berura, okay? You know, I have an idea berura that there was a Sinai. I'm not joking when I say this. I do not believe in Matan Torah. I don't. You can put that down in a statement. Rabbi Blachman does not believe in Matan Torah. He knows there was Matan Torah. And I think everyone has to believe in it, never learn Gemara in his life. Because you would really learn Gemara Rishonim, you also wouldn't have to believe in it. You would know it. Try learning Chaznish. Start there. Just to see how much you don't know. Then after you realize you're going to have to learn all the Gemara and Rishonim before you begin to understand them. But first, take a piece of Chaznish. I'm sorry. Enjoy. And that's enjoy. See how far you go. You'll be able to read reads and agrees and all the other. These books you can read b'chinam. Try reading a Chaznish. You think I'm joking? You read Yetzias, it's easier. Read it in Sivas, it runs. Try Chaznish. Try it. See if how far you'll go. If you get more than 2 lines, let me know. Okay? Ad kidei kach. He only spoke to certain types of people which we could chop he didn't come down to the world. He stayed up there and expected you to come to talk to him at that level. Just to understand what that book is. And the big books. And he paskin of Kol HaTorah Kula. Literally on everything. Written in hieroglyphics. I'm telling you now, everything's like, if you don't know the sugi, it's such bekitzer, makes the beer grow, look like an arichas. Yichap. Try it. Try it someday. And you'll understand why, but you told me, why am I religious? Because I learned Gemara and Rishonim. That's why. Why do I believe in Sinai? I don't believe in Sinai. I know there's Sinai. Why? Because I learned Gemara and Rishonim. Still learning Gemara and Rishonim. That's why. Okay? Food for thought, because it's an important thought. A very important thought. The more you'll learn, the deeper you'll learn, the more you broaden your scope, for goodness sakes. And in depth, not just be a chamor noises form, but you'll know the scope. Behekif u'ba'omek, you'll be a very big yodeh in Nevuah. It won't be a separate place. Okay, we got this clear. Weiter. So this is what we have to know. But God does not do it for everybody because there's enough material around for you to do it on your own. The only time God does this when the world was in terrible crisis. Only once in history. Yetzias Mitzraim. Afterwards, you're supposed to take the story and take it further and constantly go back to it. Learn your Chaznish to understand that it happened. Okay? And he expects you, for your parents to spend, to sit on Leil Pesach and tell you the story of this and tell you what this means religiously and theologically. And the evening of Pesach is supposed to be not just tell stories from the Medrash. No, tell us exactly what happened there and how that proves. Bayrei, Yachol, Mashgiach v'Yodea. That's what they were supposed to be doing. And each was supposed to say that my father told me and his father told him. This story was supposed to be going, not that I'm reading the book. I'm telling the story that my father told him, that his father told him, that his father told him. Biz Sinai. That's the tzura, the way it's supposed to be done. Not just reading in a book. Maybe so who wrote the book? You know, we can go on all these stories all over again. But if it's supposed to be V'Vanecha means there has to be a chain of history. And somehow we believe that parents tell the truth to children. Once upon a time was a chazaka. Okay, the chazaka ain't other but sheker lebanav. I don't know what it is today. I don't know. I don't lie to my children. Okay, but Lamaisa, they state, the Ramban says that's the biggest chazaka that we have as far as our Messiah. Okay, if I'm telling you my beliefs, I'm telling you what I really believe in. And then I heard from my father, that he heard from his father, or enough in the chaznish. Okay. You may know it from Nachmas Moshe. I don't know what you know it from. Okay, whatever makes you feel small. Okay, whatever. I don't know. I heard from whatever. Okay, so the Kadosh Baruch Hu is not going to do it for everybody. Why? Because the tools are there for you to do it on your own. That's what he writes here. He writes here, Lo yaseh otem ofet b'chol dor le'nei kol rasho kofer. I'm not going to do it. Why? Because if he's going to do it constantly, we'll never have free will. We'll never have challenges. We'll never grow. We'll constantly be kindergarten and spoon-fed. God is not interested. His minister of education is called Satan, and he throws hoops and expects you to jump because he wants you to develop your jumping skills. He needs you to exert effort because he wants you to do things with your own 10 fingers. So he says, that's what you're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to clone that to our children. Yes, this is what he wants us to do, to relive through memory the occurrences of the Exodus and translate them into the way the Ramban has translated them. And it's not enough to tell the story. You ain't gained anything with that. Telling Medrash stories more will not do it. You have the ideas, take the story and translate it into its theological meaning. Because that's the purpose. The idea is that you shouldn't be a kofer, your das Hashem. The Ramban says mufurish. Why do you have to tell your children? Because God doesn't want to do again to prove his existence. We want to be able to live vividly the story of Egypt, which proves his existence. But if you're going to tell the story and don't end up and thus we prove his existence, what have you done? Nothing. The kid will take it into mythology. But if you use the evening as one would say, a lunch and learn, this is the idea. Basically, I really love to teach the kid. By me, we do that. Okay, once it comes to the kraplach or whatever it's called over there, the kraplach that we eat on Pesach, we eat gebroks. Okay, at that point, the knedlach, little round things. Okay, we eat the knedlach. Then we start talking. We're in the vuchim. Now let's talk about Yesodei Torah. Now let's discuss, okay, these are the ideas. How do we understand it? How do we develop it? What are the fine points of it? That really should be done. Because the mitzvah hayom is v'yadata ki ani Hashem. It's a mitzvah, Yetzias Elokim. What is our tool of knowing Elokim? We can't say, I know God from creation. First of all, I don't have a direct chain to creation anymore because we have a big gap of people that forgot that there was a God creator. I don't have a live chain to there anymore. It broke down by Enosh. Avram is one guy, but what happened to the whole world around him? He wasn't there. Did he see Noach or did he get it on his own? Don't you understand? That's why God introduced himself to the Jews through Anochi Hashem Elokecha, Asher Tzisicha Me'eretz Mitzrayim. And that's why all those mitzvahs are Zecher Yetzias Mitzrayim. What for? To affirm the Yetzias Elokim. That's what it's for. So the Ramban continues. That's why God is very machmir. Ichmir ma'od. We're in the paragraph before the last on the right column in the fourth line. Ichmir ma'od. This course for eating chametz, this course for not being kind of mitzvah of Pesach. That's only Pesach and Milo, the only two mitzvahs which is chorus. Why? Because they deal with the basic relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu and the covenant with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. Pesach is to teach Achilas of Pesach, so to remind you Yetzias Mitzrayim, and therefore the fact there's a God which is Yodea v'Yochel Mashgiach, and Milo is the idea that we have a covenantal relation with him. And if you don't live with those mitzvahs, you don't remember Mitzrayim, and therefore you're chayv chorus. That's the idea of tefillin. How many people put on tefillin? If you don't say the Yeratzim before tefillin, you're missing the boat. There, the Yeratzim before tefillin says, we know, But if you're not aware of it, how many people put on tefillin at the kotel don't even know what's in the things? A bunch of black boxes, and they're putting it on for respect for their grandparents' memory. It's Chinese parent worship. Okay, well, I'm not saying it's nothing. It's good. It's this, but that's not what it was supposed to be. It's supposed to be a way of remembering the Isis and Maivsim and the Yetzias of the Das. Should I go on? Whatever the Ramban taught you, that's what he writes here. Next to you, you stand next to a mezuzah. Don't say, "Uy, Shemer Psoim Hashem, Shemer Blesses Yisrael." No, say, "Hayvi Kadma Shimena Kol B'Chevs V'Yecholis Yodeu Mashgiach." That's what you're supposed to think. The maskana of Yetzias Mitzraim. That's what you're supposed to think when you say Kriyas Shma. Okay. That's why he took you out of Egypt. When the pasuk says, "Bavur zeh asa Hashem li b'tzeis Mitzrayim," what does Bavur zeh mean? So Rashi, Bavur shekayem mitzvaysav. How does he know it? It's a pashut to pasuk. Ani Hashem lekechem shetzeis yetzchem me'etz Mitzrayim. What for? Liyot lachem le'elokim. I want to be your boss, governor. Elohim loshen srora v'rabbanus. Rashi Sanhedrin Beis Amid Beis. Ani rotze liyot ha'balabayit shelachem. Which means to say, I want to be your commander, and you will listen. You will heed my commandment. Rashi says it mefurish on the pasuk Shma Yud Beis, Gimel Yud Beis, where it says, "Bavur zeh asa Hashem li b'tzeis Mitzrayim, bavur zeh shekayem mitzvosav kemo Pesach Matzah." So we look at Matzah, Pesach Matzah, only a kemo, because they're the contemporary mitzvahs at the time, but they're just an example of the Sachako Kabbalah Ol Malchus Shemayim. That's the purpose of this whole evening. He comes and says, and that's why it says, what's he saying here? Unbelievable. It's not just no, the emes v'yatziv is also a kiyum d'oraisa, because there it's an elaboration of what happened in Atzis Nechom. If you read what you said, okay, there it describes what happened with the Yam. That's what it describes the story. They describe what happened more by Arichas than the one pasuk. It's from Mitzrayim. That's a kiyum d'oraisa. Okay, it's a double pashut. That's also true. Says before, so everyone's playing Torah. Is it Anania covered? Is it there? Forget that. Focus on one thing: is Mitzrayim. That's what the Ramban say. Don't the question is which prat is it Anania covered? Is Sukkos Mamish? That's not the issue. You have to focus again on Yetzias Mitzrayim that night and conjure up the idea of the Ramban's distillation of what that teaches us. Are you aware of how many mitzvahs rabbis zeichet Yetzias Mitzrayim? V'akol liot lanu b'chol adoros edus b'moifsim shelo yishtakchu. You should not forget the occurrences in Egypt and understand their theological interpretation. If this would really be happening in our nation consistently, not just reading a book and singing but actually having what we call an evening of theological discussion, and this would have been going on father to son for generations without a break, there would be no possibility of any to become a kaifer, because of the vividness of the Mitzrayim occurrence would still be fresh in the eyes of everybody. The reason it's stale today is because many people have stopped doing it, or in history stopped, or more so, even people who do it do not do it in a way of translating it into I'm relating the history, which is the basis of my faith. I'm not asking you what's done in your houses. It's not my issue at the moment. I know what I do. The evening is based mostly on talking about Yud Gimel Ikrim. We tell the story and get to the point. Okay? But that's what the pasuk said. That's what this Ramban is saying. Ki, and this is a beautiful sentence. The last few sentences on the left column. Hakonem mezuzah bezuz. You buy a mezuzah with a buck. Because Abba Pischo, you put it on your door. Bin Skaven bin Yana. But he was mechaven to put the mezuzah for the purpose of mezuzah. Equals what? Bayrei, Yodea, Mashgiach, V'yochel, V'menabit. Right? That's what's the maskana of everything found in the mezuzah. Kvar hoda. Then you're actually at that point admitting Chiddush Olam, Yetzias Abayra, Hashgachasav, V'gam B'nevuah. And thus, when you do that, you're a mom in B'chol Pinas HaTorah. Except for that, you're also doing something else. You're also thanking God. Milvad, Shehoda, V'chechesed, Abayra, Gadol, Ma'od, Aloyser, Ritzaynai. Shetzion, Mi'avdus Lecherus, V'kavad Gadol, L'schus Aveisechem, V'chafetzim B'Yerishmai. That's what you're supposed to be thinking when you put up a mezuzah. You ever put up a mezuzah? Well, that's what you're supposed to be thinking when you put up a mezuzah. He says anybody that does it, mechaven li'inyan, this is what he would be thinking. The same thing applies to tefillin. The same thing applies, you're going to say Kiddush, Zecher, Yetzias, Mitzraim. I suggest when you first get married, sit down with your wife and tell them, I'm going to explain you what I'm about to do. And she's going to say, what do you mean? I thought that's only the night of Pesach. No. This is actually a daily reality. I think about this in tefillin. I think about the mezuzah. I think about this in Krishma. And we can go on and on. We're actually supposed to be obsessed with this idea. You're aware of that and think about it. And the more that you learn the depth of these ideas through the Rishonim, Rambam, Ramban, Ran, etc., Kuzri, Ikrim, and so forth, you really can appreciate every nuance found there, and you're never bored. There's a lot to think about. That's why I tell you again, you guys daven too fast. Okay, you're missing the Ramban. Okay, the Ramban continues further, but I did not copy it. He says that's the reason of going davening with the tzibur. The reason of davening with the tzibur, and actually because everyone should hear the other one saying that he believes in God. We should have a public expression of communal belief in God. Haramas hakol b'tfilah, and also beitek nisiyos. She writes that. I didn't copy that piece, but you can see it on your own. Continue. The Ramban continues it. That's what the whole idea is. That for us to remember this, and we admit, God, you're the creator. You're our boss. Okay. All that is the idea of mitzvahs. Okay. Let me just show you in light of this a interesting Rambam, and then next week I'll show you in Psukim. No, let's start with the Psukim. We'll start with the Psukim, and then the Rambam can come later. Let's look at it carefully. Let's look at the Psukim found about Yetzias Mitzraim. Okay, well, I'll just do a fast one, and then we'll do this the Oimik next week. You go to the first page in source Vav. Now that is a pasuk in Parshas Bay. It's dealing with the shechita of the Korban Pesach. If you learn the Chumash there, and you can look at it on your own later, we're not talking about the Achilas of Pesach there at all. We're talking about discussing the shechitas of Pesach, which means we're not talking about the night of Pesach. We're talking about Erev Pesach from Chatzos. Okay, you'll read the Chumash, you'll see it. And there it says, Vayaki yomro lechem deichem ma'avodah zois lachem, v'amartem zev ha'pesachu l'Hashem asher pasach b'tei b'nei Yisrael b'Mitzraim, v'nekfo et Mitzraim v'etbaten yitzil v'yikodam v'yishtachavu. That's a pasuk. Is this pasuk talking about the night of Pesach? No. This is talking about the Achilas of Pesach, the Matzah and the Morah? No. What's this talking about? It's talking about the Shechitas HaPesach. And what do we answer? What is the Shechitas HaPesach? It's a Thanksgiving korban. Actually, we were supposed to die like the Egyptians, and God was nice to us, and he skipped over our houses, and therefore we didn't die. And therefore we thank him for basically sparing us, although we were not really worthy, because he loved us for whatever reason be. God knows he loved us, and why, but he did. Okay. You never asked a question on love. Love is an obsession, therefore you never ask. Okay, he loved us and skipped and did not kill us. And that's basically what you're saying. This is a thank you present. It's an acknowledgement of the taiva that Kodesh Baruch Hu did to us. Now, let's understand one thing. This is actually a very interesting answer, which is nice. But who's the questioner? Now, you look carefully at the pasuk, you see it's even in bold letters, Ki yomru aleichem. Tell me, is he giving a statement or is he asking a question? The verb for asking a question is yishalu. And here it says yomru. Now, in your own experience with your friends, when do you ask in a statement form? When you don't want an answer, you're making a statement in question form. Want me to give you one? Are you an idiot? Did you read this? No. I don't expect you to tell me you did. No, you did. I didn't expect you that. When do you make a statement? When you're challenging the person and you're basically, it's not rhetorical, you're underlining that you're challenging his existence. It's not a question. It's when I want to blow you down. So you make a statement. You want to really make it rough. So you make a statement in question form. What kind of person are you? Me, I'm a thief. You really think that was a question which was demanding an answer? I didn't ask. It wasn't by Yishal. It was by Yomar. Okay. Now, what kind of son is who we're talking about? The child came. These people who are talking Bnei Chem, people leaving Egypt, that they will come to the land of Israel, and they will do the korban. Then it's interesting because the pasuk there says Vayaki v'achem el eretz Yisrael, whatever it is, v'shamartem is avoda azois. Then it says Vayaki shacha b'ncha yomal bnei chem ma avodas lachem. We're talking about when you come to Eretz Yisrael. What does that mean? How many korban paisachs were there in the midbar? One. There's one in Pesach Mitzraim, and one the year afterwards. It's found in Pashas Ba'aloischa. Please read it. That's when when the cousins of Nadav Avihu said, "Hey, we need a Pesach Sheni because we're Tamar Lameis because these guys got themselves killed, so we can't do Pesach Rishon." That's when they had Pesach Sheni. You probably don't remember. Read it, okay? It's in Pashas Ba'aloischa. Why didn't God say in Pashas Boy? Why did He say the people, your children, will be this way only in Eretz Yisrael? Why? And what about the kids of the next year in the midbar? They won't be this way. They don't have this mitzvah. It's very clear that God expected that the people walking out of Egypt and testing to Sinai would not react this way, would not make statements of Ma avodah zos lachem. It is only afterwards that, once again, we're talking about 2 generations later, born in Eretz Yisrael, after a Dor Boya Oretz, we're not direct recipients of the story of Sinai. They didn't see it. They only heard it. Here is where things can creep in, and a child can ask, Ma avodah zos lachem, not ask, but make a statement. It was, what is the statement? He's basically being cynical. Says, what the hell are you doing? Like, well, come on. Now you have to translate what were the possible kfiros at the time in Eretz Yisrael, which would justify that type of a question. I mean, I'm trying to say how you should be learning Chumash. Okay, that's how you should learn Gemara. Okay, so what would it be? Well, go back to the kfiros that the Ramban mentioned, because they existed afterwards too, believe me, big time. Okay, according to Yecheskel, it existed even by the Jews during the whole period of time. Okay, so obviously there's something, or learn Perik Aleph Avodah Zarah Halacha Aleph, and figure out what is it in the culture of people once they're not in shell shock of the Exodus, 2 generations later, that are going to revert back to their pagan ways, and therefore they will ask about this service in a cynical way. In other words, he won't say, I don't mind you, he'll say, I don't mind you worship Baal and Ashtoreth. But this omnipotent, mysterious God, why would he care about the world? Why you want to worship him? So he's making you say, what the hell are you doing? Here's what we would call a Russia. So it's not because he said lachem, eschem, and all the other shtusim. It's simple because the pasuk says he's not asking a question, he's making a heretical statement. He's challenging religion. You understand? Next time you say the Agada is a Mechilta. The Mechilta is Pashit this, because look at the Pashit. It doesn't say Yishalcha bincha, it says Yoimelcha bincha. This is a double Pashit. Okay, I really mean it. It doesn't work with a lot of your nice little commentaries over there, but this is like, I don't understand. This is B'yisa B'kutcha. Yoimer, but it's beautiful. That type of Russia at that period of time, the pasuk says we have an answer for, because he's not the Russia of the Second Temple, as written in the Mechilta. Because when you have the Agada as a Mechilta, that's the times of Rabbi Shmuel. Guys, that's the Roman period. That's already the period where there was mamish kfira in the world. They didn't believe in anything. They didn't believe in gods. Lashon HaRambam, Hilchos Habayis Yom Kippurim, be made by Sheni, Tzotza Haminus. There, the guy challenges the basis of everything. Obviously, it seems to be the Mechilta. They think that those type of people are not worth an answer. And they say Hakesh, Shinov, and all the other things they say there, which whatever they mean, they're not pleasant. What has the Mechilta done? He has said that practically speaking, the answer given in the pasuk to the contemporary Russia did not fit for the Russia of his times. And I will add, Aniya Cotton, that today's Rishonim do not warrant the answer of the Mechilta. And I suggest we go back to the answer of the Mikra. It's much more successful by experience. Okay? I'm just pointing it out because you see what the Mechilta did. He took the question of the cynic, religious cynic at the time of the Mikra, and gave it an answer which is fits for the contemporary writer. Who says this? You think it's just me? It's a Ritva. Open, you have your Ritva Psachim, Makas Psachim. In the back, there's the Ritva and the Agada. Read it. I mean, I developed it, whatever more, but the core is there. There's a different kufas of Rishonim, and therefore there's different answers. Nothing like Rishonim, okay? Really, it's like sweet. It's so sweet. It's so true. It's so real. It's not one of these commentary Haggadah, this Haggadah, Vertlach, Shmertlach. There's a pshat. Okay, it's a ritva, mamish a ritva. Okay, it's simply, but this is a modern. This is like a JTS ritva. You understand? It's like different decades, different periods. But this is right. It makes sense. It makes sense when you get used to thinking of Rabbeinu Rishon. You'd be surprised how creative they are and how real, with 2 feet on the ground, they are. They're frightening people. That's the Rishonim. They're different Rishonim, and therefore you have different periods. It is very clear, anybody dealing with education today, if today we would deal with an education in the ancient English Dickenese approach, using the rod, I wouldn't have 10 people in this institution. Don't work anymore. You ever learn Masechtas Makos? If you kill your kid because you hit him too much, you're not going to go because HaKoshel mitzvah. Today, you go to jail. And the kid will be an anti-Semite or a major drug addict, and he'll die in some stairwell with a needle in his arm by the age of 25. Let's face it, that ain't going to happen anymore. So you understand that things changed? Are we clear? The times of the Gemara was different types of relationship with parents and teachers and education and values. It's clear as day. So the Hake is Shinov. When you say it, and Leil Pesach say, yes, this is dealing with the Rishonim at the time of Rabbi Shmuel. Obviously, today's children are different, period. Don't say, oh no, there's no more Rishonim anymore because everyone's a tzaddik. That's a Chassidish twist. You know what I mean? No, there's Rishonim. Believe me, it's a Gezinta Rishuim. You know what I mean? But this is not the way we deal with it anymore. Okay, I need you to understand that. Okay, it's very, very important. Okay, so that's what's happening here. So what is the answer given to this Russia? This child, which is not asking, he's literally ridiculing and challenging. He's making the statement. What do we answer him? He says, listen, you may have religious problems and you think, why would I worship a God that you think doesn't care about me, right? Or he's busy doing other things. All the Kriyas which are contemporary at the time, the Elohad Elohaya, he's up there, but he doesn't deal with the down. He's Misha Shem Elokeinu, where it says, Ramal Kol Goyim Hashem Ala Shamayim Kevoidoi. That's all. He's up in the heavens. He's a space cadet. He doesn't care about what's happening over here. You're right. I'm not dealing with you. This is not our question tonight, because the question was actually on, but I'm going to give you an answer. And the answer is you also agree that we have to have morals and ethics, and that includes gratitude. You're right. Maybe he doesn't intervene, but this is one point of time that he did. Maybe he's a one-timer. Maybe, I don't know. As far as you're concerned, I know it wasn't. But as far as you're concerned, it was a one-timer. I have to thank him for that. You have the morals and ethics which say, of course, the Taiv is something which he understands. So what are we answering then? We're not answering, we're going in theological debate. We're saying just understand that this is something you should be able not to ridicule. You don't have to agree, but you don't ridicule, because we are simply thanking him. And Hakar Satayv is not payment. It's a sense of showing thank you by showing that you are dependent on somebody. So whether he cares about me or not is irrelevant. I, in my moral world, have to show gratitude. It's just like the mitzvahs of Kant Sipor, or the Rambam says, does he care about the passion of the mother chicken, mother pigeon? No, right? God doesn't care, remember? God doesn't care about mother chicken or mother pigeon, he doesn't care. But he doesn't want you to be passionless. In other words, God doesn't care whether the mother pigeon is crying or not. That's not his issue. As we said before, we learned that already. That's a Rambam. There's no hashgacha there, right? You don't really care. You only care about the species. But he doesn't want you not to care, because by you acting that way, you become a callous person. If you're callous with animals, you will be callous with people. You will develop a horrendous personality. This is Rambam and Ramban. Okay? It's the same thing here. That's what we tell this kid. God cares about me is totally irrelevant to me. I have to express my gratitude, because that's who I am. It is correct for me to express my gratitude. That's why I'm doing it. Now, we're really skirting the issue. He's really asking, why would you care? God doesn't care about you. We're not, this is true. We're not going into theological debate with him, because that's obviously not the point to hear. The first one, we want him to at least stop ridiculing. You want to ridicule? Don't ridicule. You want to ask? I'll go into a debate. You're not asking. You're ridiculing. Okay? So how do we neutralize the ridicule? By telling him something which he will understand and stop ridiculing. And then maybe come to the table with a real question. Once he's a shoel, we can answer. My footnote always taught me, they're going to come to you with questions. Oh, he didn't know which was right. You have to learn how to filter out what are the questions, or what are really, the guy doesn't have a question, but he wants to verify his answer. A lot of people, they don't have questions. They come to me with a question. They expect a certain answer. They want the rabbi to verify which they felt was right. Never answer those, because they don't want to hear the truth. They just need a hechsher. They need a fig leaf for their erva. They need a fig leaf for their whatever they are. You must only answer something which is the question. As he taught me, you never answer a question before the tongue of the asker is white from the question. He's like, parched. I can't sleep. I need to answer with the question. Then they'll answer it. Because beforehand, they're just going to use it as a fort at a Sheva Brachas. They'll never really internalize it. They'll never really understand it. They'll never really understand the depth of it. They won't even realize what it took to get there. They'll just, yeah, and this rabbi says this, and this rabbi says that. The Kotzker said, the Kotzker, I'm going to stop right now. Why doesn't he print a book? Says, when do people read a book? Shabbos, after the chont, you're tired. You go to lay down. You take a sefer with you on the parsha, right? What happens? After that, after a while, it falls on your head and you're off in La La Land. He says, I don't want to creep in bed with every idiot. Taking my book to fall in bed with, I don't want to fall in bed with every idiot. Very smart man, okay? He only wanted people that really wanted to learn. He didn't want to be, hey, I get a board from here, a board from there. He didn't want to be part of that whole genre. He believed that students and teacher is someone's parsh, she's at Sameh, and this one's going to supply the water, l'chulamai. If you're not at Sameh, do me a favor, don't be here. That's what he held. I've written out the same thing, by the way. Anyway, have a great night. We'll continue the other psukim next time around, and then this is the finishing the topic.